Hi everybody, it's Karen at Bible-Based Homeschooling, and I am sitting here on my porch, and I wanted to do this live video to talk about schedules today. So if you are out there and you are watching, please comment below so I can answer any questions, or I can talk to you about scheduling and how to find the perfect homeschool schedule. Right now we're in full back to school swing of things. Everybody's heading back to school, back to homeschool, and trying to figure out what the best schedule is. And we've been through all kinds of schedules in our homeschool. So I'm going to talk to you about that and what type of schedule we use and what type of schedule we have used in the past, what's worked, what hasn't worked. Before I get into that though, for any of you who follow along on the blog, you know that we are reading through the Bible as a family. We are reading from Genesis to Revelation, and we have finished 2nd Chronicles last night, so that was exciting. We are just reading straight through as a family every night. There's no schedule with that. There's no plan. It's really just sitting down and reading through. Sometimes it's a chapter, sometimes it's more, sometimes we have big discussions based on the commentary. It really just depends. But last night we finally finished 2nd Chronicles. So tonight we will begin Ezra. And if you are out there, you can read about how we are reading through the Bible and what it's doing for our family all on the blog. I'll put the link in here after this broadcast, but we are just sitting down and reading through the entire Bible as a family. And I said to my 7-year-old recently, what a gift. At the age of 7, you will have heard the entire Bible read to you by your mom. So it's just been really amazing. You can read all about how we're doing it and the transformation that is taking place in our family. So if you are out there and you are in the middle of homeschooling, you've started already, or you are just getting ready for back to school, we are going to talk about schedules and what is the perfect schedule. And if anyone out there knows me or has followed for any amount of time, you know that there is no perfect. Perfect is what works for you and what God wants for your family. But we are going to talk about, what has worked and what doesn't work for us. And I would love to hear from you guys. The people across the street over there are weed whacking, so I'm looking over there hoping it doesn't get too loud. Anyway, I guess that's the beauty of sitting on your porch. You may be having some of those distractions. So anyway, what is the best schedule? What is the perfect schedule? Like I said, we're starting our 11th year of homeschool this year. I cannot believe we're on year 11. This is coming from the girl who didn't want to homeschool, who tried to run away when God called her to homeschool, who said, okay, I'll do it, but for 1 year when my daughter was in kindergarten, and she is now 15. She is beginning 10th grade. So God has done amazing things. But back when we first started, I was all about finding the perfect system to make it work. And what I have learned over the years is every year looks completely different. Some years we have had a strict schedule. Some years it's been much more loose. And it really depends on what is going on in your life at the time and in your family and what works for you. Some people just by nature need a really strict schedule and a strict structure. Me, not so much. I like to be a little bit loosey-goosey. But what we have found over the years that works best for us is something in the middle. Because in the beginning, I have 4 children. So I have right now 10th, 8th, 6th, and 2nd grade. But we started this when the oldest was in kindergarten. So in the beginning, it was just her. And then as time went on, we added in another one, and then another one, and another one. So our schedule has had to change. And there were times in the early years where I really craved that really strict schedule because I felt like that it would give me control over everything. And a lot of times it ended up backfiring on us. So what I mean by that is, for instance, the year that I had my 4th baby, I guess my daughter was in first-ish grade, I think at the time. Possibly second, but I think it was first. And so we were, going to be having a baby in November, and I thought, well, for our schedule this year, and there were no others being homeschooled at the time because the others were still in preschool, I think. So I thought, well, I need to have the most strict schedule and the perfect schedule because I'm going to have this baby, and it's going to be really hard to homeschool while I'm having a newborn. He's due in November, so we start in September. So I got like the mega schedule. I bought like the big box curriculum where everything was there, and I figured this will be the way to homeschool that year. And when I say backfired, that was the year I should not have done that, because here I had a new baby. My oldest was only in first grade. We literally could have just laid on the couch and read books and colored and talked about different things and talked about having a new baby. But I bought this humongous curriculum that I was in over my head with this huge binder and a huge schedule. And why I say it backfired was by the end of the year I was looking at local Christian schools because I thought, I can't do this. I can't keep up. This is too hard. I don't know what I was thinking, trying to keep up with this major schedule when I had an infant, a newborn, nursing, not sleeping. I also had a 2-year-old and 4-year-old at the time. No, it would have been 3-year-old and 5-year-old at the time. So I don't know what I was thinking. By the end of the year, I felt defeated, and I felt like I was ready to give up. And that's not, I don't think, what God wanted for me at that time. I could have been enjoying our homeschool a lot more. So what works for you? Does this a structure like that work, or does a more loosey-goosey? Like I said, it depends on the year. That year, looking back, loosey-goosey would have been the way to go. But because I felt a little bit out of control in my circumstances, I think I was trying to control everything, and I just ended up getting in way over my head. Thankfully, we didn't quit, and we didn't stop homeschooling that year, and we persevered. But what God has shown me is that, number one, I am not in control of my homeschool. If anybody has read my book called Home, it's all about me discovering that God is in control of my homeschool, and I need to let Him lead. And I need to pray over everything and seek Him in everything. And it's not about me. It's all about what He can do. And He can do so much more than what I can do. Praise the Lord. Because by myself, I can't do anything. So anyway, we have toyed with different schedules over the year. There were times as I was adding in more children where I felt like, again, it needs to be really structured and every 15 minutes needs to be scheduled. And that always ended up backfiring for me because we never were able to stick to it. And as soon as we got off course, then I felt like I was a failure. So what I have learned over the years is, for us, and I'm not saying for you, as I always say in my books, when I'm speaking, no matter what, ultimately don't listen to me. Listen to God. He is the one that you need to listen to. You can glean advice from me about schedules. You can listen to what works for me and what didn't work. But ultimately, the perfect schedule is the one that God helps you to create for your family and for your homeschool. So, listen to my ideas. Let's share each other's ideas. Talk in the comments and let me know what works for you and what doesn't, because every family is completely different. And that's the beautiful thing about homeschooling. God has a unique plan for each family, and He's going to use whatever means He can to grow your family through this. And that may be a certain way of scheduling, and it may be, a different way, but ultimately, God has a unique plan for each family. So, hi Sonia, you have felt the same way, right? When we overschedule, it just helps and ends up, we feel defeated, and we don't want to feel defeated. So we can, start slow and then add in new things as the year goes on. And this year, if you've watched my first live video from here, I'm not even using a planner. I'm using a notebook to write down my schedule. So right now I'm just writing in a notebook, and I have my calendar on the computer, and that's enough where I can write down the things that we're going to do. Now, my older daughter is in high school, and we did purchase for her the Sunlight Core 300 And we're using it, I say sunlight somewhat, we're using it loosey-goosey as well, but at least there is some sort of structure there. Hi, Jessica. Praise the Lord. You're excited to hear someone else say, aren't we all? Isn't it great when someone else can say that, you know, they're on the same page and they feel the same way and you're not alone, right? And that's what we need to do. So over the years, I've done, like I said, all the different schedules. And right now, I'm going to share with you really what has worked for us for the past few years and what we've been doing. And, you know, also how to homeschool with multiple ages, what has worked and what hasn't. Again, I don't stick to a very strict schedule, but I do have a framework and a skeleton for our day so that we have some sort of structure in place, and that kids, I think they thrive on knowing that there is a structure, so we're not just like a free-for-all when we wake up. But we are very open to letting life get in the way of that schedule. And we are very open to, you know, if God has a different lesson for us that day than what's on the lesson plan. Sometimes that's okay. There are going to be interruptions all the time in our homeschool, and we can't schedule those. But we can be prepared for them. And that's really important. When you make out a schedule, know that you are going to be interrupted. Know that it's going to change so that you're not caught by surprise. I do not plan out every single day. I'm more of write down what we did when the day is over. Because sometimes I don't know, like if my sons, in our math, we don't have to do all the lessons. Sometimes if they're getting it, we go on to the next one. Sometimes they need a little bit more work. So if I try to say we're doing this lesson and this lesson and this lesson, you know, each day, what if they need a little more time? Or what if they are able to go ahead? I don't want to get stuck into that plan. So I have an idea what we're going to do. We're going to do math every day. We're going to move on when needed. But we don't, oh, there goes that weed whacker, sorry. We don't get really wrapped up in what it is. Let me just see, I have some questions here. So let me just see before I go on. Hi, Kristen. You're planning your first year. Well, welcome to the journey. You are on an amazing journey with homeschooling, and just relax and take it easy because it's really going to be okay. Jessica, you just confirmation that you made the right decision in your homeschool life by allowing God to guide your schedule. Absolutely. God is the one who ultimately calls us to homeschool, and we have to be open to what His plan is for our schedule. Stephanie, you have a illness here. Yes, loose schedule and flexible. Of course, if that is your situation, that is something you definitely want to give yourself a lot of grace. Absolutely. Sonia says she recently switched to writing what we do as we do it, right? Because this way you have that record and you're not feeling defeated if it doesn't all get done. Because, try to get in closer here, because there are so many times, like I said, where homeschooling allows us to be flexible, where our children might need to spend more time on something. So why would we want to make this schedule where I don't ever want to be just a box checker, like, okay, we got it done, let's move on to the next thing. I want them to really understand what they're learning. For instance, last year, my son, he takes a lot of time in his science to read through everything, to take notes. He's very diligent, so he didn't finish the book. Now, if I were to go by the book schedule, I would feel like we didn't get it done and he failed. Absolutely not. He's learning because he is actually absorbing the information and doing it his way. So I wanted to give you a little bit about what our day looks like and what it has looked like for the past few years, and you know how our schedule looks on a daily basis. So we homeschool 4 days a week because 1 day a week we are out of the house at a fine arts program for homeschoolers locally. So that day is all fine arts. I mean, it's not any of our normal academics, and that is the day that I've scheduled to do all that stuff because we're not home all day. So Tuesdays we're not home, but the other days that we are home, and there is no typical or no normal day, but we try. But the framework of our day, has been sort of like a division between together work and individual work. Now, when my children were younger, so no high schoolers, no middle schoolers, I would work with each one of them individually. Now, my high schooler is pretty much all individual, and my middle schooler as well, but they still come to me, and we go over work at different times. I try to make for the high schooler Friday afternoons, like we have a little meeting time so that we can sit down and go over everything and just connect. So, but when they were younger, we would do time with each individual. So what we do first before anything is we pray together. So mommy wakes up, the kids wake up, breakfast time, get ready. Usually we would always try to start around 9 o'clock. And we would always do our Bible first. Now that we do our Bible time with my husband in the evening, we used to do our Bible study in the morning. So anyway, we've changed that to the evening. But in the morning, I still try to do something like a devotion, and we try to pray. So we do that first, because if we don't put God first in our homeschool day, there goes our homeschool day. We have to put him first. We have to set our minds on him. I've also made a rule for my family that the Bible, everybody has to do individual Bible reading first thing in the morning before anything else, that those God's words should come before their eyes before any other words. So anyway, we've done all that. So we come downstairs, we've had our breakfast, we do our thing, and then we get together for what I call individual work. So individual work means that I work with the youngest child first. And while I work with the youngest child first, the others can all start their work. And individual work would be math, language arts, writing, reading. For my little guy, he's reading to me still. And we do our individual work that way. And so I take the youngest child first, and I've always done this because they need me the most. So for instance, before they can learn to read, they really need me the most, although they need me the least amount of overall time. So I would work with that one. And while the other ones were starting their work, the rule has always been they cannot interrupt me, because early on I would have I would say, okay, math time, everybody get out their math books and we'll all sit around the kitchen table. And what would happen was I was trying to help this one, I was trying to help this one. There were 3 levels of math going on, and it was crazy. So now I've scheduled it where I work with the youngest one first, and the others cannot interrupt me. And the rule is, if they need me, they have to wait till it's their turn. And knowing that they're going to get a turn helps a lot, because then they don't feel the need to interrupt me, because they know that they're next. They can either work on something else while they wait, or they can be free to just go play while they wait, but they have to wait their turn. So I work with the youngest one, and then I would move on to the next oldest one, and the next, and the next, and so on. Now I work basically with the 2 youngest ones the most in the morning, and even my second youngest is 6th grade now, so he's not that young. But I have the 2nd grader who still needs me quite a bit, and then the 6th grader. So the other 2 are pretty much all on their own. But when they were younger, that's how it worked. It was like mommy went from one to the next instead of trying to do everybody at once. So individual work. And then usually individual work is done by lunchtime, like 11, 12 o'clock. And then we always, when they were younger, we took like a really long break, like an hour and a half. The first few years, I was intent on getting all of schoolwork done by lunchtime. It was like, we have to be done by lunch. I want the whole afternoon for playing and outside stuff. But then I realized sometimes as they were getting older, or there were more of them to homeschool, that was hard to do. So now we took like a nice long break, and then in the afternoon we do more of our together work, which would be like history and read alouds and science and things like that. So we have things we do together. That helps a lot. Now there's not so much together because they're getting older. So it's the 6th grader and the 2nd grader do some stuff together. And then I still do read history. We just basically are doing just read alouds from a historical time period. That's how we're doing history this year. Nothing real formal. And I will still actually do that with the 8th grader, the 6th grader, and the 2nd grader. So what we do for us is if you're trying to figure out how this looks, what I'm saying is mostly more formal stuff early on in the day. Get that done, the individual work, where everybody's at a different level. And then afternoon for more things that we can do together, like history, geography, science. And right now, science is just my two youngest ones together. And then history and literature, or I shouldn't say literature, the books that I read aloud to them more for fun, we do those in the afternoon. And then I'm really big on getting outside and playing and real life learning and having afternoons for that. Okay, I want to look at some of these questions because I see them coming up as I'm speaking and I can't read and speak at the same time. So let's see, we have, you'll begin your second year, but are first with curriculum, and I feel like I need a printed schedule to make it through. Then if you feel that way and you work that way, that's the way you work best, then go ahead. Don't listen to me. What I'm saying is, for me, I can get too hung up on trying to stick with the plan that I'm losing sight of what I'm actually doing. And I don't want to just be a box checker. So, but if you feel like you need to print something out so you have a framework, but what I would say is just be okay to things maybe getting in the way or interrupting that schedule. But by all means, if you work well with having something printed out and you need that, that's fine. I loved planners forever. I was a planner addict. I went through every kind of planner there was out there, and I always felt like I needed to have, who doesn't love getting a new planner in the mail and that fresh book to fill out? I always felt like I had to have that to make it through. And this year I realized it's not that it doesn't help or it's not good. I'm the simple girl, and I just wanted to keep it simple. So I really just have a notebook where I'm writing things down. For my daughter in high school, I have a separate notebook where I keep records for her. But I have a calendar on my computer, so I kind of keep, since the flow every day is pretty much the same, it's really for us, okay, we're doing science, go on to the next lesson. We're doing math, go on to the next lesson. But I don't plan out each day because, like I said, sometimes they need a little more time on a lesson, and sometimes they're able to jump ahead. And then what I felt like I was always tweaking that schedule. If I wrote down like lesson 1 on Monday, lesson 2 on Wednesday, lesson 3 on Thursday, what if we didn't get to lesson 3 on Thursday? Then I have to revamp the whole thing. So for me, it just works to sort of know science, go to the next lesson. History, read the next chapter of the book. And then, of course, if there's projects and things like that I want to get done, then I'll schedule those in there. But I try to keep a looser framework. Okay, and then I have a question here. Let's see. Oh, Katie, your baby just dumped the nicely folded basket of laundry while you tuned in. I'm sorry. Oh, exactly. We have to plan for these things. And you know what? Sometimes the best many times, the best lessons we have learned in our homeschool are the ones that have been unplanned. And all those life lessons, like the baby dumping the laundry out, or when things don't go our way. These are all lessons for our children that are preparing them for life. So don't get so hung up in all the academic lessons that we forget we're preparing our children to have their own families someday and to live in the real world someday. And what better way to learn to live in the real world than to live in the real world each day and see how does mommy deal with it when the baby dumps all the laundry out, right? So don't be afraid to let life get in the way. Sonia, you like the individual Bible for all. I really am in love with God's Word, and I want to pass that down to my children. And I need, for myself, every morning to read God's Word first. And one of the things that I would want to pass down to my children and my family most is that we must seek after God in the Bible and to know His Word. And if I can see them fall in love with His Word as much as I am in love with His Word, then I would just feel successful in my homeschool. Okay, Jacqueline says you love the Bible study, start the day. You'll be implementing that this year. First year kindergarten, yay, welcome to the journey. When my kids were, especially the year we did the Bible as our main textbook, which many of you know about from reading on the blog, that was the thing we did in the morning was our Bible study. And we did that up until last year when we started reading through the Bible with my husband at night, but that's become our after dinner thing. So that's more of our Bible study time in the evening. but in the morning I feel it's so important that each child gets in the Word individually. And then, even if I just share a little verse with them, sometimes I'll say, oh, this is what I read this morning, and this is what God was showing me this morning, or if it's a psalm or a proverb or whatever it is. But definitely, before you open any book in your homeschool, open the Bible. When I say don't listen to me, listen to God, I would say listen to me on that one because I really feel there's no better way to start your day. There's no more important lesson to teach your kids than to be in the Bible. Let's see. Sonia, you struggled with getting any kind of daily schedule with all your kiddos. You have a 12, 11, 9, 5, and 3, and 9 months. Boy, you're busy. What a blessing, though. The littles can be very distracting. Absolutely. My big kids all do the same science, history, health, and geography together. Absolutely. It makes life so much easier when you do things together. What I've realized now that I have a high schooler is, when they were little, it was like science and history and this and that. And it's like, those things really mattered, but it didn't have to be so rigid and so formal. They learned so much science being outside here on our little farm. They learned so much history when having conversations and talking about things just in every day. So doing those things together for multiple ages is a wonderful way to take stress off of you and to reduce the load on your schedule. The littles can be very distracting. When mine were little, the hardest thing for me was definitely having like a baby and trying to change a diaper and nurse a baby, and then you have a toddler at the same time dumping the laundry out or whatever it is. So give yourself grace in those early years and also delegate, right? You have the older ones, the 12 and 11. You can say, mommy's going to work with whichever child it is, and the older one is going to read a book or color with the little one. And that's the beautiful thing about homeschooling. The multiple ages and the relationships that can happen because you are all home together, and the little ones, they really look up to their older siblings, and the older siblings can be mentoring and teaching the younger ones, and you're building these beautiful relationships. So you can definitely, when you have multiple ages like that, schedule in time for the older one is going to be with the younger one, or you can schedule it so that, while you're working with certain children, other children are paired up together and they can help each other. And that's a really great way, not just to reduce the load of your schedule, but to build relationships with your children and to have the siblings connecting. It's a great relationship builder. And that's one of the things I love about homeschooling, is that even though we all have our moments, and just earlier today I was yelling at everybody for being too loud or whatever, even though we all have our moments being home together all the time, we really are building a relationship with our families that is so unique because we're not all running in different directions. People say, oh, you homeschool all these ages and it must be so busy. And, first of all, I only have 4. So I'm like, it's in the public schools or the private schools, you have like 20 kids in a classroom. These are 4 and they're mine. But, it's busy, but not really, because if I had my children in school right now, the 4 of them would be in 3 different schools. So talk about a busy schedule. We'd be getting one here and one there and one there. And then you would have all the homework after school and all the other things that come with school life, the different events and the different things you have to do. So it's not really as busy as it seems when you're home all day with your kids. And like I said, you're building those unique relationships. Sonia says you were going to ask if you should purposely build that in. Absolutely. And again, my schedule is not the perfect schedule. It is for us, but it doesn't have to be for you. So take my ideas. If they work for you, great. But hopefully it'll give you maybe a little spark of something for your family, or you can glean a little bit. But let's share with each other. If you have a great tip out there, share with us so we can read about it in the comments. And even after this Facebook live video is finished, you can still keep commenting, and I come back and I check the comments and answer any questions. So right now we're live, but if you come back later and you're watching, feel free to write down your questions and I'll answer them later as well. Let's see, I have a question. Do you have a time that you begin school and end school daily? Last year, we constantly had our schooling take over our day. You know what? I never thought to have a set time to end. That's actually a great idea. See, you guys are so wise when you comment and you give me ideas. Because sometimes you may feel like we're never going to get finished and you feel like you have to keep going until you finish what you planned for that day. But having an end time isn't such a bad idea. Because maybe if you end it before it gets too bad, that might be better. Like before the day just gets, like if things are going badly and it's just dragging on, maybe you should say no matter what, we stop at 3. That's not a bad idea. We've never done that, but I actually really like that idea. And we've probably never done it because we don't really go that late. But I can see that if you have a lot of children that the day can get away from you. So I like that idea. As for starting, there was a time where I was very strict with the start schedule, the start of the day, because I said, in the real world, you can't be late and you have to start at a certain time. So we've gone through that where it was like 8:30 was our starting time no matter what. And I was pretty strict with it. I've been a little bit looser the past year or two, and we do start more closer to the 9 o'clock time. And while we're not to the minute 9 o'clock, we are pretty close, and everybody kind of knows that they have the morning to do what they want to do, but by that time they need to come and start. So for us, that works. I know there's many people out there who don't start till much later, that they like to sleep in, and homeschooling can be flexible, so that's fine too, whatever works for you. But having a start time and an end time, I like the end time, is a really good idea. Melissa, have I dealt with kids constantly? Oh no, my kids don't fight, never. Yes, we've gone through definite seasons of that, some worse than others, and husband being jealous. Aw, he's jealous that you get to spend so much time with the kids. That's very sweet, actually. 8, 10, and 12. My husband is not jealous because he works from home, so we see him a lot. In the beginning, he did not, actually, so it hasn't always been that way, but he is home a lot now. He's out of the house a few days a week to work, or to go to a client on site, but for the most part, he is home and he has his own business. So he spends just as much time with them as I do, and we love it and we feel blessed. But I can see that if you have a husband who travels a lot or who works, really long hours, that would be difficult. And I would say, actually, there is a podcast episode where my husband and I did together about how dads can be involved in homeschooling. So you can look for that, because I was going to say, make the most of the time that he is able to spend with them. But the fighting, yes, we've had that. There's a great book, and I always talk about this book. We've read through it like 2 or 3 times. It's called Making Brothers and Sisters Best Friends. I will put the link to that in the comments when this is finished. And it's also definitely, if you search for it on Bible-Based Homeschooling, I have a post about it. That book was written by homeschool teenagers about their relationship with their siblings. And it is such a great book, and it talks all about how God has placed each person in that family, for a special reason, and it really changes the perspective of like the culture saying, oh, they're just siblings and they're going to argue and they're going to, not get along, and it's like so against that, that is not what God intended for our sibling relationships. Like, oh yeah, brothers and sisters, they just fight. It's more about making brothers and sisters understand the beautiful relationship that God has given them. So I would highly recommend that book. It really helped us to see how we should treat our siblings. And, of course, my kids aren't perfect and they do argue, but I've seen as they've gotten older that the arguing has lessened. It's not nearly, I don't think, as bad as it was when they were little. So 8, 10, and 12, yeah, and they're all boys. But it definitely, I think because we spend so much time together, like I said, the relationships that we've built, and I say this so many times, but I say it's like we're like our own little clique. We are, in school, you're dependent on your peers. At home, we're God dependent and family dependent. So it's like, we have our own inside jokes, our own little things that we all do. And the fighting will get less, hopefully, as time goes on. Do I homeschool every day? It feels like your day never ends because of homeschool, housework, etc. You can certainly take a day off. If I didn't have the one day out a week that we're out for a homeschool program, I could totally see taking a day off for errands and just downtime. Another great thing that I can't do right now, but we loved when we did, is called, it has a name, but it doesn't have to, Sabbath schooling, where it's 6 weeks on and then 1 week off of rest. If you can schedule that kind of schedule, it's very in line, too, with what God has intended, I think, for us, kind of like the 6 days and then the 7th day of rest. We did that one year. And we still had summers off because I don't homeschool year-round. But we scheduled it to have, basically, it might not have been every exact 6 weeks, but 6 weeks on and then a whole week off. And that was so refreshing because you knew that week was coming. And when that week came, we didn't have to do school. We could just be, and it was wonderful. We can't do that right now because in the spring, we've been traveling for speaking at homeschool conventions, and our springtime gets really busy. So I can't afford to do that right now. We have to kind of push through and not take so many weeks off to kind of save it up for later or to finish school earlier. But if I didn't take Tuesdays off for homeschooling right now during the week, I think I would definitely schedule a week where a day where it was a much looser schedule. Fridays can be field trips or errands or real life learning, not necessarily in the textbooks, but just, cooking and sewing and stuff like that. I could totally see doing that when my kids were younger if we didn't have this other day that we use for fine arts, which is music and drama and art and all that kind of stuff. And they do that all day on Tuesdays. But back to the Sabbath schooling or the week off, if you can schedule something similar to that, it's such a wonderful way to plan your year. I absolutely loved it when we did it that year. It was just like, if you know that week is coming, it just helps you get through so much better. And then that week where you just really don't have to think about school for the week, it's amazing for both mom and for the kids. So definitely look into that. I do have a post on the website all about how that looked. I think there's 2 posts about it. One while we were doing it and one, I think, after we were doing it and what I thought about it. So you can search for Sabbath schooling, and I'll try to remember to put the links in the comments here. But homeschooling every day, totally, again, up to your family. The perfect schedule, like I said early on, is what works for you and the schedule that God has in mind for you. Don't leave him out of the picture. When you're planning your schedule and you're planning how this is all going to look, don't leave him out of it. Pray over your schedule first. Ask God to lead you. Ask him to help you what he wants your schedule to look like for your family. Because many of us forget to do that. We get out the planner and we look at what everybody else is doing and we start comparing and we say, I want to do it this way or how this person is doing it. And we're like halfway through the year feeling so overwhelmed. Well, did you ask God about your plans? Did you seek him? Did you pray about it? So really, I would highly recommend that you are in prayer over how God wants your schedule to look every day. We have another question. Purposefully lightening our load on Fridays to finish early. Great. That is a great thing to do. I think that's a great way to end the week. And that is just, something that would really work well for most people. Okay, we have another question. A hard copy schedule that your kids keep at their desk. Perfect. To help them with time management, and it seems to work. If your child is old enough to have their own little planner or scheduler, or even if it's just for the little kids, like a list each day where they can check off and see what they did, that helps. Kids do need a framework. I have, like I said, tried everything from the very strict, we plan every 15 minutes of what we should be doing to, no schedule. What I find best works for us is saying, not like 9 to 10 is history or 10 to 11 is math. It's just saying, these are the things we need to get finished in the morning. And knowing that sometimes they don't all get finished. But, for us, our everyday things are math, reading, language arts, writing. If the science doesn't get done, I'm okay with that if the history doesn't get done, especially when they're little. Not so much in high school, because now we're really keeping more of a track for a transcript and credits and all that, but that's a whole nother episode of this. But when they're little, like those extra things to me were like science and history and things like that, that if we didn't get to all that, but as long as we got, right, if you get math done, you feel like you've had school, right? So as long as we had our math and our core subjects done. So every day, those are our everyday subjects. And then in the afternoon, we schedule the other things. So, you know, if things happen and we can't get to them, it's okay. One thing that I used to do, and I talk about this when I speak at conventions, my biggest regret was I used to have Bible time first thing in the morning, and when the kids were little, say they weren't getting ready as quickly as I wanted, and all, you know, the day was starting to get away from me, I'd be like, all right, skip Bible, we'll get to that later, let's take out our math books. Oh my word, I was telling my children that math was more important than the Bible. I will never make that mistake again. We do not skip our Bible time no matter what. That is just saying that, you know, other things are more important than God. I fully trust that if I seek him first, that he will make sure the rest of the things get done. And if they don't, then maybe he didn't want them to for that day. But I have to fully trust that we never, ever, ever should skip our Bible time, because that sends my kids the wrong message and it doesn't line up our hearts properly. I thought I had another question here, but maybe not. Okay, so anyway, if there are any more questions, you know, share them in your comments below. Share with me your great tips on scheduling. Like I said, the best schedule and the perfect, there really is no perfect. The best schedule is the one that you have prayed about and you have sought God on, and is one that doesn't let you feel overwhelmed. It's always best to add more things in later on than to feel overwhelmed and defeated by not getting it all done. And like I said, that was what happened to me early on. I was ready to just sign up my daughter for school because I felt like I can't do this. But when I realized that I could sort of let it go a little bit and then we could add more things in as we needed, that was so much better in the long run. Did I begin my day with the Bible time and devotion? Do I begin with the Bible time and devotion reading? And when do you have your own Bible reading? Okay, so I read the Bible when I wake up first thing in the morning. I let no other words cross my eyes until God's word has crossed my eyes. And so I do read the Bible the first thing in the morning. And then usually, and I do that usually with the app on my phone, and that is like I wake up and that's what I go to, so I can set my mind where it needs to be. Then I will usually study the Bible more throughout the day, not necessarily at that early hour, but that early hour for me is where I read his word, and then I do a lot of praying there in that bed before I get out. And then I will have my own Bible study time, you know, throughout the day. Usually it would be more in the afternoon. Like on a beautiful day like this, I like to sit out on my deck and read my Bible. And then at night we do a family Bible time together where we're studying together as a family. But for the children now, we do during school year, definitely we will do some type of Bible reading and prayer before we go on to our individual work. So we will at least start our day together, whether it's like a devotion or I just share with them what I read in the Bible that morning or something. When the kids were younger, we definitely started the morning with a Bible study type thing. And that, if you have read about how we use the Bible as our main textbook, that would take all morning because all of our subjects then came from the Bible: science, history, language arts. That's all on the blog if you haven't read about that already. And I have a free ebook on the blog about how we use the Bible as our main textbook. And I've done a video on here about that as well, so you can find that on the Facebook page. But yes, we will start, whether it's a study or devotion, prayer, something, first thing in the morning. Jody asks, do I have tips for homeschooling a 4-year-old in pre-K with no experience as a homeschool mom? Your experience is that you are their mom. You are the best teacher that God created for your child. What's important and what isn't academically to have a good start? A 4-year-old, the most important thing you could do is not get caught up on what's the best thing academically. Engage with your child. Look into their eyes. Build a relationship with them. Point them to God in everything. Go outside, turn over a rock, look at the bugs and say, wow, isn't God amazing? Look what he does. lay in the grass, look at the clouds, talk about weather. It doesn't have to be formal. Those early years are amazing, and it's a time where your child is going to be absorbing everything anyway. I think worksheets and workbooks at that age is stifling. They are not created to sit still like that. They are not created to fill out a worksheet. Hands-on learning at 4 years old, cooking in the kitchen, going on field trips, like I said, playing outside, going to the grocery store, real life skills, talking about how you meal plan. There is just so much that you can teach a 4-year-old without a single, curriculum piece at all. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be that way. And like I said, you are experienced. You've had 4 years of experience as this child's mother. And God has created you for this purpose, to raise your child and to teach your child. So read the Bible with that one. Get outside and play. Go on field trips. Most importantly, look in your child's eyes, engage with them, and work on building a relationship. There is so much time for academics later. Trust me. I have a 10th grader now, and I have seen over the years that it all gets done. God will fill in all that stuff. There is so much time to learn and to use workbooks and to use, formal stuff. But early on, I was always very gentle and kind of like Charlotte Mason-y style. But there was times early on where I thought, I'm a homeschool mom. I have to have this really smart kid, and they have to do all this stuff ahead of schedule. No one cares. I'm not trying to keep up with anybody else. I'm trying to raise my child for God and to teach them about God. So don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't feel like you have to keep up with everybody else. At 4 years old, just enjoy your child. Let's see. Do you have a Bible? No, I don't have a Bible curriculum. Like I said, I have a free ebook called Bible-Based Homeschooling that you can find on the website, Bible-Based Homeschooling. And that sort of outlines what we did the year we used the Bible as our main textbook. So our spelling, our writing, our history, our science, everything except math came from the Bible. And I sort of outline how we did that, and I have sample weeks and things in there, but I don't have a curriculum that I actually have put together. Can I put the link for the blog? Yes, absolutely. I will put that in here when I'm if I could be I think I could actually do this while I am talking. See, I can't because I'm losing track already. But it's BibleBasedHomeschooling.com. And you will find the information there for all the things that I talked about. And when I am done, did I even get it right? There it is. And when I am done, I'm going to go back into the comments and I will try to add things that I talked about, like the Making Brothers and Sisters Best Friends book. I will try to link in the free ebook for Bible-Based Homeschooling. But if you go on Bible-Based Homeschooling, at the top of the menu, it says ebooks. Hover over that and you'll get a screen that pops down with my different books, and Bible-Based Homeschooling will be under there. You can download that for free. And I will, like I said, I will go back and I will put in any other links that I mentioned. You're welcome. Are there any other questions, or share with me? If you have started already, how is your year going? If you are getting ready to start, and again, if you are just starting this journey, I encourage you to sit back and relax, because it is going to be an amazing journey. God is going to teach you so much, just as much, if not more, than your children. There's some blog posts also on Bible-Based Homeschooling about tips I have for new homeschoolers. If you were to search in the bar on the side, new homeschoolers, those will pop up. But really, relax and just sit back and enjoy, because it's a beautiful journey that God has put you on. There is no perfect schedule, but the schedule that works for your family is perfect, and it doesn't have to look like anybody else's. Again, try to keep it as loose as possible without having no schedule, because you don't want to just have no structure, although some people thrive on that. I mean, unschooling, people love it. So, but I think generally for kids, a basic framework and a idea of what's going to happen each day works best. So if there are no other questions, then I will probably end this. Let me just check. Yeah, I just hear the crickets. So Anyway, if you have questions even after this airs live, please put them in the comments, and I will come back and answer those questions. If you have something that you would like to hear about on the next live broadcast, I'm trying to do these a couple times a week, please let me know. I'm happy to answer or address different topics that are of interest to you. I have a few ideas for the next topics, but you know, if you have certain things you want to hear about, or if there are certain resources that I have, I would love to show them to you on here live so you can see them. I did do a Facebook live video showing you Apologia and our science curriculum. You can find that on the Facebook page if you want to see all about it. I showed you our language arts resources last week on one of these live videos, so you can see the books actually in person. So you can find all those on the page, on the Facebook page for Bible-based homeschooling. One more question here. You have a hard time finding readers and books for read-alouds that are safe. Yes. It's funny because that's a topic that I had actually thought about doing today. If you go on Bible-based homeschooling and just search read-alouds, my favorite read-alouds come up that are Bible-based. But if you are worried about what your children read, I would highly recommend always, because every family is different, I would highly recommend always previewing the books first. Because I've made the mistakes before of saying, oh, this person said it was a great book. And then I start reading it to my children. I'm like, oh, I didn't want them to hear this. So you should always preview the books first. But I do have some resources on Bible-based homeschooling that talk about different read-alouds, that I have different lists. And I can try to link that in there after as well. So you can find those read-alouds there. But I was thinking of doing one of these live videos just about read-alouds. So if I do that, hopefully you'll get to find it on here. And I'll show you the different ones. But each family has such a different sensitivity level. So, you know, like I said, it's always best to preview beforehand. So I want to thank you all for joining me. This is Karen DeBuse from Bible-Based Homeschooling. For those of you who don't know, I also have a blog at simplylivingforhim.com. And that's not just a homeschool blog. That is my heart and my ministry for living simply. You'll see lots of posts about our simple life out here in our little hobby farm. You'll see a lot of pictures of chickens and things like that. I do live videos over on that Facebook page as well, showing you our little farm over here. And I'd love for you to join me over there at simplylivingforhim.com. And there's also a Facebook page. And again, Bible-based homeschooling, my goal here is to share Bible-based resources for the homeschooling family. Please share with me your favorites, and every day I post things that I find that are either on sale or that are just, you know, good resources for your family. If you are interested in how we use the Bible as our main textbook, you can find that on the blog as well. And I will see you again next time. And this is Karen from Bible-based Homeschooling. Thanks for joining me. Bye.